Hi everyone, my name is Britt Moreno and I'm the morning anchor here at CBS 4 in Denver, and joining me this morning is Jen Neely. And Jen, we are going to broach a subject that I think is really tough for a lot of people. And so I firstly appreciate you talking to us about your story, and secondly I hope that it helps other people. And so anyway, thank you for being here with us.
Thanks for the opportunity to share.
Oh, well, thank you. You're a victim. Tell us what you're a victim of.
I'm a survivor. I'm a survivor of domestic violence, a pretty severe case out of Arapahoe County.
And choice of words there, survival.
Yes.
And I think that's why you're here and able to share your story. There's often a stigma attached, I think, to domestic violence and sexual assault and that sort of thing. And oftentimes I think the victims tend to internalize that, and it's hard to discuss. Why are you so open about sharing your story? Why talk to me today?
Because there shouldn't be any shame in what you went through. It's a cycle. It's a mental health issue in the United States that's not being addressed well. And if it's not for survivors like me that have been the victim and have come out of it as survivor and sharing their story, then we're just going to stay in the same cycles that we've always been in.
Let's walk through the process for people. Domestic violence takes many different shapes and forms. I think that from what I know about you, it sounds as though you had really the gamut of things happen to you. And it starts with emotional abuse in some instances, right?
Definitely.
Tell us a little bit about what you endured.
It started off very subtle, more manipulative type of behaviors and controlling behaviors of I couldn't go out with my friends, keeping me more at home, isolating me. I don't have family here in the state of Colorado, so that part of it was pretty easy. I didn't have family who could recognize what I was going through, but my close friends eventually became not friends anymore.
Yeah.
And just very, like I said, very manipulative and very controlling, very emotional. A lot of criticism towards me, but putting himself in a very good light, and then me being the cause of a lot of things going on in the relationship.
And I would think in a relationship, it is hard to recognize that at first, because you're thinking, well, I do love this person, and maybe he or she wants me to be better, and that's why he or she is telling me these things. Or maybe he or she just wants to spend time with me, and that's why I'm not allowed to go do these things anymore. But those are things that I think people need to pay attention to, right?
Very much. That's that narcissistic personality, which a lot of offenders have that narcissism in them. And it's the way I describe it is I've never been put on a shinier, prettier, more intricate, detailed pedestal than he ever put me on. The honeymoon stages of the relationship were phenomenal, but the lows, the valleys were horrific.
Really, really high peaks, really, really low valleys. How did the emotional abuse and that controlling behavior start to evolve into something more physical?
He would lose his temper. The emotion would get deeper and stronger within him, to the point that he ended up turning it to physical with pushing me. It was subtle at first. Again, that has a cycle of increasing in severity. Very subtle at first of, he would just push me, or even like take my phone and throw it across the room, or put me in the bedroom and not let me out, and then increasing. It's each cycle, each incident was more significant with the abuse.
So you see those little glimmers of violence, but it's like here's the line and he's barely reaching that line, he hasn't crossed it yet.
Right, but then that line will move the next time, and then the next time, and then the next time. So it goes from he pushed me to a honeymoon stage, to he might push me and then smack me. And then it's the honeymoon stage all over again of I'm sorry, this wasn't your fault, it's all about me, where they take the ownership but yet don't actually get the help for it.
How bad did things get?
The doctors told me in the ER on the night of October 24th, morning of October 25th, that I shouldn't be alive. He almost killed me. There was a consideration of attempted murder charges against him.
He just took his hands to you?
He did, for 3 hours.
Just physical violence?
And sexual.
And at this point, you were married to him?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And goes without saying, but maybe we should just point it out, that never makes it okay.
No. No, definitely
Right.
not. abuse in any way is not okay. Social, emotional, sexual, physical, any of it is not okay. The struggle that I had was the fact that we were married. Is this for better or for worse? You know, in sickness and in health, clearly he was demonstrating a sickness. And I would ask him to seek help, and he would manipulate that as well, saying he was, but then he wasn't. And so, yeah.
Oh my gosh, and you speak about it so eloquently. So at the bottom of your relationship, it was you were essentially being tormented for several hours at a time by this guy.
Definitely.
For people who are watching this, they might be thinking, why not get out the first time he lays a hand on you? It's so easy to walk away. What would you say to somebody who might be thinking that?
It sounds simple, but you don't see what is so evident for everybody else. It's definitely operating with blinders on. And like I mentioned before, those honeymoon stages, like after an incident, it's amazing. And they do take ownership. It looks like, it sounds like, it feels like, but not for the long term. It's just to band-aid that incident and then to be able to move on. So give it days, weeks, months later, and it's the same cycle all over again.
People might not realize that, you know, then the person might come back to you on, you know, begging for you to come back, on his knees, crying, that sort of thing. There's all that emotion
Many
and
times.
pressure on you. And, you know, you don't realize how hard it is to withstand that sometimes.
It is, and you know, my personality is very much a giving personality as well. And, you know, I'm an interventionist by career, so I wanted to intervene in his life as well and take care of him. So, you know, I think that there's some innate things that go on there as well. For me, there was anyways of wanting to take care of him, and he had, you know, what he described as, you know, kind of a rough childhood at times. So, you know, hey, let's have a family that neither one of us had that we always wanted.
Of course.
So there's a lot, again, that manipulation, subtle, very subtle manipulation.
You were trying to make it work.
Yeah, definitely.
You were fighting for that relationship.
Definitely.
When you were in that low point, how were you able to say enough is enough? How did you step away from that life that you were living?
In my incident, unfortunately, I actually had the law on my side because of the incident and the severity of it. He eventually, once he fell asleep that night, I was able to run out of the house and run to a neighbor's. So at that point, he went to jail and I went to the emergency room, and there's a restraining order issued immediately. He was out on bond with restrictions of a GPS unit, so that he would have to stay out of my protected areas. So in that case, it was definitely easier because it was kind of a line drawn in the sand, but because it came so severe, I wasn't able to do it on more of the minor incidences. So I don't know. I honestly don't know what would have happened if it would have just been another minor incident rather than the traumatic event that it ended up being.
And does a part of you ever think, I wonder what could have happened if I'm still with him?
I would have died. I almost did in this case, and like I said, each one tends to be worse than the other, and I wouldn't have survived.
As a survivor, how does the healing process take shape after you are out of the environment? What's the next step?
For me, I called it redefining my normal because nothing about my life was normal. So it was kind of being in my mid-30s with a blank slate. I had all this that I had to take care of still from the incident, but what did I want to do with my life now? It really made me reevaluate the people in my life, the choices that I was making. Like I said, I was told you shouldn't be alive, so when you come to one of those near-death experiences, it really changed and formatted my life for the future. Of, like I said, really evaluating who's there, what's important, what isn't. And from there, I sought some support within the community of sexual and domestic violence, and just reestablished friendships that had been lost because of the relationship, and owning what it was. I was a victim and am now a survivor, But there are definitely parts of the story that were my fault. Not taking blame, but I still chose to participate in it and not get out, which is part of what the domestic violence cycle is. So just kind of owning that too. And to make sense of it, I have to give back to the community. I'm involved in agencies and with people, and I help people, and I've had people come to my house to get out of relationships and needed a safe place that was unknown to their perpetrator. So just giving back is the only way I can make sense of what happened.
And that's the only way really to heal, probably, and walk away from this feeling okay.
Yeah, definitely. And to know that I helped somebody else avoid what I had to go through.
My goodness. As you assess yourself and take note of who you are and where you are today, are there things that have changed about you since going through this?
I definitely have a voice. And I'm not afraid to use it. I have choice in who I allow in my life, what I allow in my life. And I really am just about making memories and having fun and, like I said, evaluating who's in my life and only allowing the good people in there.
Are there instances where you find yourself looking over your shoulder or maybe locking a door twice or anything like that? I mean, anything that you're still residual scaredness that's in your life?
Fortunately, he got sentenced to 25 years, so he is in the
That helps a little
system right
bit.
now, so that does help a little bit. I will say he did file for appeal, and that is going to court next Tuesday at the Attorney General's office, so there's definitely some anxiety around that. His sentence was for 25 years, which is, pretty grand, and I hope that minus the appeal situation, if it goes to that 25-year sentence, that I'm so far moved on with my life that I don't have to worry about those things. His family has respected me. I will give them that. They know that I haven't seen or heard from them, and they've left me alone. So fortunately, that's nice. I've not ran into them in the community, which again is a really good thing. So no, I really came out of the situation with ownership. Ownership of where I was, what I went through, and how I can give back and what I can do for myself now.
That sounds like it's a key word for you, ownership as well.
It is, yeah.
You have to believe in that.
Definitely. Like I said, it's the voice and choice that I have, and it's my life, and I get to choose what I participate in or not.
Do you look at dating a little differently?
I do, yes. I would say I have almost a zero tolerance policy whenever I see some red flags. But I have to be careful and not turn what isn't a red flag into a red flag.
Sure.
So it definitely is, it's hard to navigate. It's really hard to navigate that scenario.
If this potentially reaches someone who is in that sort of relationship or thinks, you know what, I have been pushed or shoved, or, he hurt me when he grabbed me. I mean, what can people do? What should they do at that point in the relationship?
There's definitely resources out there. Stand Up Colorado has a hotline, and go to a friend, somebody that you trust, go to a family member. I would definitely say if they can do that, then they can do worse. And you don't want to believe that in somebody that you love and are supposed to trust, but it's the way it works. It's a medical diagnosis, mental health issues, narcissism, sociopath. Those are all tendencies that those perpetrators have. So know that there's a reason that they have it and that it's a diagnosable condition as well. Because the cycles are the same, the characteristics are the same, which makes it diagnosable.
Thank you so much. And you are very brave.
Thank you.
Have you been told that before?
I have, yes.
Because it's not easy to talk about. It can't be.
It's not. It's definitely not the easiest, but like I said, if it helps one person, then I've been successful in my story, and what I went through makes sense to me.
Alrighty, Jen, thank you so much for talking with us today.
Thank you.